Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing, or not even discussing, well, yeah, I'll be discussing, but reviewing the Fox panel. It was a panel discussion, the Fox Soul panel discussion entitled, Is a War Being Waged Against Black Men? And so tonight I was supposed to go on not Cynthia, I'm about to say Cynthia G. Good God Almighty. I was supposed to go on Vicky Dillard's platform, but I heard that she's preparing for travel. And so she asked if we could reschedule for another time. And yeah, I know you see my lenses. These aren't the prescription lenses. These are the lenses my students who are gamers. They's like, Doc, if your eyes are hurting, you got to protect your eyes and wear these Blu-ray glasses. And I was like, okay. And it actually works. I'm looking at the screen and it's good. So these aren't the official lenses that I'll have next week, but something to protect my eyes. But anyway, family, thank you so much for tuning in. I see Brother Ayapo is in the building. Brother Johnny Romaine Thomas is in the building. And Ayapo, you said that you would like to send me a copy of your book. That's fine. That's fine. I'll type my address in the chat, okay? So peace and love to you. Peace and love, a beautiful mind. Peace and love to you, Brother Steve and Sister Janet. Peace and love to everyone under the sound of my voice. So yeah, tonight we're going to be reviewing together because I haven't seen the entire Fox Soul panel discussion with Umar and Cynthia G, but I have seen clips. Online, and they were really, I saw it with my own eyes. They were going at it. And so that's why I put in the title, right? Is a war being waged on black men? And in parentheses, Cynthia G versus Umar Johnson, because I heard they lit it up. And so we'll be talking about that tonight. But before we get started, family, I do have an announcement to make. I just received this email from Dr. Boyce Watkins. All right. Says, Dear Dr. Ma'at, on behalf of Dr. Boyce Watkins, it is my pleasure to inform you that you have been chosen as the recipient of the B1 Excellence Education Award for your outstanding work in the education field. We would like to honor you and other award recipients at our second annual B1 Gala and Excellence Awards, which will be during the All Black National Convention. The B1 Gala will take place on Saturday, October the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Sheraton Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. Please confirm that you will be in attendance to receive your award by Monday. So family, I was ecstatic when I saw this. I was like, wow, and then in my mind, I was thinking like, well, what should I say, about this, like, what should I say? What should I say when I get up there? And I was thinking of like all of these things. And I said that, and I'm not going to give too much away, but put it like this. When I go on there, I'll be talking about everyone but myself. Teaching, STEM education from an African-centered approach is nothing new. Shout out to Dr. Kemet Shockley, shout out to all of, my predecessors, the Uhuru Academy. I'm definitely going to mention them. So Baba, who's backstage, Baba, if you can make it, come through, because I'm shouting out, the Uhuru Academy, shout out to Marcus Klein, shout out to the Ziax Institute, shout out to Akabin House, with Mwali Mubarudi and Mama Yabarudi, you know what I mean? So I stand on their shoulders, family. So when I go up there, to me, this award is I'm giving this to them, all of my predecessors. I stand on their shoulders. I'm sitting here thinking about Kwame Nkrumah, who wrote the book, Nation Building, right? And that about African-centered education, theory and practice, Kwame Nkrumah. Thinking about Dr. Amos Wilson, awakening the genius of the Black child, the developmental psychology of the Black child. So, I stand on these people's shoulders, and these are also my comrades. And I'm talking about the ones that are still here. Baba Amin, Q Butter, Marcus Klein, a lot of them are my comrades. And so I will go up there and talk, but I'll be talking about the community at large. Ashe. And so it's an award, in my opinion, for the entire community. Ashe. All right, family. And also, before we get this discussion started, let's make sure we donate. Come on now, family. This fundraiser is going on right now. I don't know if you tuned into, let me cut this down. I don't know if you all tuned into the I don't know if you all tuned into the discussion last night, but Professor James Small brought to my attention that the black community of Lincoln Heights, it burned down over a week ago. Like you could literally Google, Lincoln Heights district of the weed community in Northern California. Like there was a fire that burned down. You have a lot of black families who are displaced at this time. Like their homes are gone, their structures are gone. They're in hotels right now. I spoke to Professor James Small last night about it, and he brought on a pastor who's over there. The church didn't burn, but he said their properties, which were like 20 feet from the church, burned down. And so we're asking that people donate. Like people need hygiene products, right? They need to eat, and no one's talking about this. Even black media, I noticed that no one's talking about this. I mean, certain platforms like shout out to King Simon. King Simon's, he talked about it. I think it's called Black 360 or Magic Black 360, something like that. Rich, brother Rich and them, they're talking about it. But a lot of these black media platforms, they need to be talking about what happened to our brothers and sisters in Weed, California. And so, family, if you look at this GoFundMe, they only asked for $50,000, which to me is nothing. This is nothing that we should be able to do. I mean, you got people like brother Tariq, shout out to that brother, but he raised $1 million for his museum in 3 weeks. So surely if we can raise $1 million for a museum, we should be able to raise $1 million to give to brothers and sisters who lost everything. All right. And so I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And last night, yes, I did donate. I wouldn't ask any of you to do something that I wouldn't do or haven't done myself. So the link is in the chat. If you send $10, $20, $30, if you can, you'll see me on there. I donated, and then I connected the pastor with my mother and my aunt. And so they're connected to a church. And so that church is now going to raise funds and get some funds over there to our brothers and sisters. And see, this is what the work is really about. So often when we get on here, these YouTubers, they get on, put some money in my super chat, put money in my super chat, cash at me, cash at me. No. This is when it counts. Okay. Well, we gotta put our money where our mouth is. And so this is the work right here, making sure that we take care of our brothers and sisters. So read about the black community of Lincoln Heights. This community was established in like 1904. A lot of people, as Professor James Small explained to us last night, a lot of people had migrated out of Mississippi and Arkansas, right? And this is during the Great Migration, or a little bit before the Great Migration, but people migrated out of Mississippi, out of Arkansas, and they established this black community in Northern California. Okay, it was a community that was known for producing lumber. There was a mill there that hired a lot of black people. So once one black person got hired, they sent word to their cousins and uncles and aunts and everyone, come on up here. And that's how it was back then. So, the mill was like, I think the mill or the lumber house or whatever, that was like the economic engine of that particular community. And so they established a community. From my understanding, all of the homes were like built by the black men. The black men built the homes. These homes were passed down from generation to generation, and now it's gone. But the good thing about it, family, is this: the brothers and sisters over there said that they refuse. They said that they refuse to leave. So they're in hotels right now, and they said, we're not going anywhere. We are going to rebuild our community. They said, we're not letting the fire run us away from our community, run us away from our land, And so anyway, they're there, but they need our support, family. So I dropped the link in the chat. I'll drop the link again in the chat, family. Please make sure you donate. I'm sitting over here thinking, if it was one of those somebody got murdered by the police funds, we'd be all, have 200,000 by now. Come on now. This is a fire. It burnt down an entire community. People lost their lives. They lost their homes. They lost their belongings. Let's make sure that we donate, family. Okay. All right. So let me get to it. Let me make sure I'm sharing my audio before I do and let Baba Amin in here. So here I come, Baba. Just wanted to get those announcements out. But here we go, Baba. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have some fun tonight, Baba. This is my fun, Baba. Baba, this is my fun. Just talking
Right.
Baba, talking
Right.
Baba.
Peace.
Peace, Baba. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Mm,
Just, working. Kazi, that divine work, So I'm
Ashe.
good. Feeling good. Great to be here.
Ashe, Baba. And look, they gonna call me a black male worshiper. Dr. Ma's a black male worshiper. I got my shirt on that says black men are dope. So
Hey.
got my shirt on. Black men are
Uh,
dope, like so. They call me a black male worshiper. You a black, it's like if you honor black men, these
yeah,
divestors now, and they got names for you. You a black male
right.
worshiper, and I say I am.
Right.
I
I'm
am
of the
because
polytheist. I worship the sisters. I worship the brothers. I worship black people.
that's
I
right.
worship black gods. It's okay.
It's okay.
Don't nobody get mad when you worship white ones.
Come on, come on. But I say, when they say you're a black male worshiper, because you honor black men. But
Right.
when you look at worship, it's just to revere, to honor.
That's
Why
all it
shouldn't we
is.
honor?
That's
Why
all it
should we?
is.
Why should we honor black men? And why
That's
shouldn't
right.
black men honor black women? Come on, Baba.
It really don't hurt as much as people think it do.
Exactly, exactly, Baba. So peace to everybody in the chat. I see Gail at night. She is in the building. Kwame, is that Torre? No, no,
Peace,
no, no, no.
Gail.
That's in Kruma. That's in Kruma. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in Kruma. And Kruma Torre is in the building. Who else is in the building? Janet. I think I already shouted Janet out. Art New Stall TV. There go the goddess. I was looking for you, Queen. The goddess is in the building. I see Mrs. KP Bailey is in the building. TK is in the building.
Hey,
Wahab is in the building.
Dr. Mott, you got a crew.
I love them though. I love them.
You got a crew.
I love them,
Your
Baba.
village tight. You know what I'm saying?
I love them,
Yeah,
Baba.
yeah. The
It,
Dr. Mott, the village on this channel is tight. All right.
Ashe,
Oh
Ashe.
man, they're loyal. They share the channel. They hit like. They
Yes.
comment. They're very active. Yeah. You have one of the greatest, the coolest audiences on YouTube. Far as I'm
Ashe,
concerned.
Ashe, Bob. Appreciate that. And then look, we got Dr. Craig Samuels. He's in the building. Like you said,
Yeah.
the usual everything. Like you said, that crew,
Hey, I'm
that
gonna tell you
crew.
something. Having a fan is one thing. Having a supporter is another.
Come on, Baba.
You know what I'm saying? Some people are like, oh, I got 1 million fans. You could do more with 100 supporters
That's
than you
right.
can with 1 million fans.
With 1 million fans, Ashe, Baba.
You know,
Ashe, 100%, 100%. And they're supporters. Like you said, they're not fans. They're
that's right.
supporters.
They're
When I
supporters.
have projects going on and I drop the link in the chat, they support. When I bring
Yes, sir.
someone on, to talk about their books, his or her
Hey,
books, people support. They're
people
supporters.
support.
They're not fans.
They support, man. So
A-
salute to the
yeah,
supporters.
absolutely, Ashe. And peace to Saint Sincere. I see him in the building. He said, "Peace, King. Peace, keep peace, Baba. Peace, Queen."
Peace,
So,
saint.
and speaking of King, I heard Woman King came out last night or yesterday. Because look,
Yeah.
Baba Anthony T. Browder, he texted me this
Uh-huh.
morning. This is what Anthony T. Browder said. I woke up this morning, rolled over,
Mm-hmm.
and he shot me a text. He said, hold on, I got it right here, family. He texted me. Oh, he texted me at 12 a.m., 12:07 a.m. He
Wow.
said, The Woman King is the closest we've gotten to cinematic reparations. It was magnificent. It made me love Africa. It made me love African women even more. He said, Did I say it was magnificent?
Wow.
So that was his feedback
Man,
from it. And
if Dr. Browder said it, enough said.
and then he also told me, I said, well, come on, Baba, come on, come on the platform. Let's talk about it. He said, I can't. He said, I can't. He said, because he says, my daughter, Alanis, and I are headed to Ghana Sunday for a
Mm.
conference and will also be installed in the village of Mori.
I
So
say.
Ashe, right? Like, I'm like, oh man. So Baba got some things going on.
And
Baba got
he's
some
done a
things
lot
going
of
on.
work breaking down the symbolism in movies. So he's not
Right.
just watching the film, just being happy because it's black people. He's looking at what's being said, what's not being said. He's checking for all the Hollywood tropes. So for him to text that to you, that's nothing to sneeze at. That he meant that.
Absolutely.
That's a valid opinion. Okay, yeah, all right,
Absolutely. So he made me excited about going to see it, Bob, because when they started, promoting the trailer, you had people, oh man, is this feminism? What is this? Are they going to tell our story? All of the negative stuff came. And so, like you said, just to hear from Dr. Browder that, that this movie was phenomenal. He said it was magnificent. I can't wait to hear his breakdown of it. So anyway, Bob, let's get it started. Tonight's discussion: is there a war against Black men? So, of course, Dr. Umar Johnson is arguing yes. And then Cynthia G and another female, they're saying no. So let's check it out, Bob, and hear what they got to say. Here we go, Bob.
Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack. I am Tammy Mack. Now, during American slavery, many slave owners were terrified of their slaves' insurrection, and retaliation by the enslaved was perceived as a constant threat. That threat, in their minds, was spearheaded by Black men, whom they did their best to humiliate and emasculate as much as they could. When did that physical and psychological warfare against Black men end? Or is there a war on Black men to this day? The business of being Black today is the war on Black men, or not. Please welcome author and activist Hope Giselle. Hi, Hope.
Hey.
Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Dr. Umar Johnson. Hi, Dr. Umar.
Black Power.
Radio personality and family advocate, Dwan Brown is here. Hi, Dwan.
Hello, hello, hello.
And influencer and YouTuber, Cynthia G is back with us. Hi, Cynthia G.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm glad to be here again. I'm ready to go.
Let's go then. I'll do exactly what you tell me to do, and that would be go. Now, this question may seem rather odd and unusual for the title of this show alone in terms of, is there a war against Black men? But the question is always asked here on the Business of Being Black because, well, it is the business of being Black. So why should Black people care if there is a war on Black men or not? Cynthia, you kick it off.
So I first want to say there is a war on Black men by other Black men. And for that reason, I do think that we should care. I think that the perception of who's going to war against Black men is going to determine where our energy is directed. And I think it's counterproductive to focus on the group of men who are terrorizing the Black community simply because they're being bullied. There's no war against them by other people. They're being bullied by other groups of men. So that's why we should care.
Dwan, why should we care as Black Americans if there's a war out on your kind, being Black men?
We should care because Black men are the breadwinners of our society. And what we've seen, especially over the last 50 years, is the jobs that Black men specifically take have been taken away to other countries or put back into prison, which has then affected the whole family, which caused the so-called war on Black men, like Cynthia G just said, happens when Black men fight each other. That happens when the economy is destabilized. And you destabilize the economy through destabilizing the foundation of Black men's income to ability to earn income. So that's where the war on Black men is right now.
Hope, why should Black people care?
We should care simply because when Black men are not happy, Black women can't thrive, and then the Black household and Black families don't flourish. I think that as long as Black men feel attacked, they're always going to turn that back where they feel like they have the most power and honestly say so, which is the Black family. Oftentimes that energy that we pour into who is doing what to other people is then neglected within our own Black men, and then they cannot thrive as fathers, as nurturers, as caretakers, as heads of the household. But they can only do that if we acknowledge that there's a problem outside of us.
Dr. Umar, you, my sir, are a Black man. Why should I care about a war being waged against you?
If you care about the future of Black people, then you naturally have to care about the destiny of Black men. When you look at most of the pathology in the Black community today, from Black on Black crime, to single female-headed households, to poor academic outcomes, to unemployment, much of that is due to the war against Black men. So if we want to survive and thrive as a Black family and as a Black community, we have to implement solutions for Black men.
So Cynthia G says that the war is waged against Black men towards Black men. So everything that you just listed, Cynthia would suggest that that is the fault of the Black man on his own.
And I would disagree with that. All of the problems that Black men have were introduced by the white power structure. We do not control the school system. We do not control the criminal justice system. We do not control the economic system. All of the problems that we struggle from were introduced by the white power structure. Black on Black crime is a byproduct. It is a second-hand influence of the white power structure against Black males. Stress, depression, fatherlessness, unemployment, miseducation, lack of economic opportunity. These are the ingredients that contribute to Black on Black crime. You cannot do an effective and accurate analysis of Black on Black crime until you first do an effective and accurate analysis of white on Black crime.
Cynthia G, you say what?
I say this is the typical Black community's dishonest. I'm going to blame everything on everyone outside of the Black community and ignore what Black men are choosing to do. The reality of it is the system is not making Black men do anything. Whether Black men have schools where they can send their boys to is up to them. Whether Black men just choose to educate themselves so that they're qualified for positions that will give them the income they need to support their families, that is on Black men. Nobody's forcing Black men to walk away from their children. Nobody's forcing Black men to murder Black women every 5.5 hours. Nobody's forcing Black men to abandon their children, publicly display how they don't like or care about their children. No one's forcing Black men to do anything. And I think it's a great disservice to pretend that someone is forcing Black men to do things rather than to put the accountability where it needs to be, which is Black men. If they have an issue with the system, they should have addressed it a long time ago. You don't get to complain that you don't have any power in a system that you didn't fight to have power in. You fought for assimilation. You did not fight for equality. That is on you. I think we're making excuses at this point.
Dwan?
And I would like to say,
Go ahead, Dr. Umar.
Briefly, that Lyndon Baines Johnson had commissioned a Kerner Commission in 1967-68 to investigate the causes of the 1967 Red Hot Summer. As you know, there were more race riots across America in 1967 than any other year since 1919, led by Newark, New Jersey, and Detroit, Michigan. The Kerner Commission were experts in criminology, sociology, education, politics, and etc. They produced a book that is, I believe, at least 500 pages that details the reasons why those riots took place. And according to the president's own commission, the problems that exist in the Black community were created by the white power structure, maintained by the white power structure, and enforced by the white power structure. So Cynthia G's position is totally inaccurate and has been refuted by expert testimony coming from the Kerner Commission itself. And I would also say, good sister, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. One of the reasons Dr. King was murdered is because the Kerner Commission was released, which would have gave Dr. King all the ammunition he needed to lead his breadbasket campaign. Even the white power structure admits that the problems Black men face were introduced by the white power structure.
And to go on top of that, to bring further evidence that Dr. Umar, what he's saying is right, we can go back to 1967 in South Central LA. There was one murder, look it up. There was one murder in South Central LA in about an 18-month period between 1967 and 1968. Why? Because there was adequate resources. UCLA was bringing Black people in for free. When it came down to it, jobs were plentiful. When Black people were adequately resourced, you didn't see Black men killing each other. So when we talk about, this thing that's going on, it's not that anyone is forcing Black men to kill each other. That's not what nobody's saying. There's a cause and effect relationship between everything. And we're talking about having a full cause and effect, full on viewpoint of what's going on. What's the cause? What's the effect? When you live in a violent society that murdered its way to make a country and goes around the world enforcing murder, what's going to happen in that country is similar to what's going to happen outside the country. So we got to look at that. And when we talk about Black men killing each other, it's just a handful at the end of the day. when black men interact, 99.9% of the time, the interactions are positive or neutral.
Well, then you don't have an argument for the system because the whole system isn't doing anything to you. It's just a handful of people, right? But I wish we could get out the 1960s and jump into 2022. I feel like this is also another way for black men to gaslight because they know they have done absolutely nothing. Even if you are complaining about the system and the Kerner Commission and all of these policies, you failed to do anything about them. It is your failure to address the issue as men that have these problems going on. You can say it's only a handful of black men killing other black men, but the reality of it is you don't have the same energy when you're talking about police shootings of black men. Then you act like the entire police department, every last one in every single state, is doing something to you. But now when it comes to black men terrorizing the community, making the community unsafe, killing black men, women, and children, now you want to go to, oh, it's only a few of them. Be that as it may, the bottom line is the issues that black men are inflicting on the community are issues that we should be focusing on.
I want to get Hope in on this real quick. Hope?
I mean, the fact of the lack of elevation and evolution that we see in these arguments are my biggest issue. Once again, we're back in the 1960s when we should be having, like Cynthia just said, a current conversation. Currently, black men are not being held at the fire and said that if you don't provide this or if you don't show up in this way, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to your family. Y'all just are not showing up. And then when you're asked to be held accountable to these things, you say things like, well, back in this time, and when we tried to do this back in a couple of years ago, half of y'all weren't even around when those things were, put into action. And then when you found out about them, instead of bringing them back to the forefront to see if they would work for you in this day and age, you just talk about what didn't work on the back end of things. I think that a lot of the times you all find it a lot easier to gaslight us into believing that we're the problem so that you can have more time to figure out what the solution is, but that's not the solution anymore. We figured out that doesn't work, and you trying to buy time in the system is not going to help anybody, and especially not the black communities that you say that you love.
Before we go to break, hold that thought, Dwan. Before we go to break, I do want to take up for my black brothers here. The CDC reports that black men show up to their families more than any other race in this country. Black men are taking their children to school. Black men are playing sports and doing outside extracurricular activities with their children more than white men, more than Asian Americans, more than any other ethnicity in this country. But we'll continue to talk about the war being waged against black men when we return on Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack on Fox Soul. We'll be back. Welcome back.
I can't hear you, Dr. Mai.
I'm up here running my mouth. Baba, what did you think about this first segment? What thoughts were like going through your mind in this first segment, Baba?
Well, I'm listening to everybody, and I believe everyone believes what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? And people may get mad at the light-skinned sister up there, right? But she's challenging them. Like, she's challenging, saying, man, what you gonna do about it? When I hear the system, ain't nobody making you doing this, ain't nobody making you do that. Number one, it's kind of a false argument because no one's saying I'm being made to do these things. When we say that there's a such thing as systemic racism or if there's a such thing as a war against the black people, not just black men, and no one addressed when the war actually stopped. You know what I'm saying? But when we say those things, it's not a blame the white man thing. Is if we're gonna fix something, if we're gonna be accountable, then everyone involved in the situation has to have some accountability.
Absolutely, Bob. Yeah, it's like she totally absorbed the system. Like you're blaming. And I know people get upset. Don't say we're victims. Don't say no. Like look at what Dr. Lily Fuller, he wrote a whole entire book. What was it called? A compensatory. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Of victims of racism, right? Yeah.
So what you end up with, Dr. Mott, you end up with a situation where you can't offer a solution. You know what I'm saying? If the solution interrupts the status quo. So because what comes after talking about the system is we're building a new system. What comes after is that we're replacing that school with this school. What comes after is that we're willing to build a new community. But if you do that, now you're diverting black dollars. We can't. So don't get to that part. Let's stick right here where you're having a problem. We don't want you to have a problem right here, because if you fix this, somebody's pockets are gonna get hurt. So if you blame massa, then you're not being a man. If you blame the outside force, you're not being a man. But if you sit here and look somebody in the eyes and say, I am being a man. I am being a man. And when I do those things that need to be done to fix the community, I'm coming up against opposition. I'm buried. I'm not, my platform is snatched. I'm not listened to. I'm called angry. I'm called militant.
Come on. Come on, Baba.
But what happens when you lose a war? A treaty comes. And in the treaty, they say, you can live peacefully as long as you do this or behave this way. And if you don't behave this way, you're no longer, you're violating the treaty. We have an assimilation treaty, it seems.
Yeah, we do.
And
Baba.
as long as, what I mean by that is, as long as I'm smiling, I'm nice, Dr. Ma, and I accept the fact that they're gonna hire 4% blacks and everybody else is gonna be in the ghetto, being and stuck in generational poverty, I'm good. Right. But if I try to buck the way capitalism has categorized us, if I try to buck the way this whole system is set up, then all of a sudden something's wrong with me. It's like I'm violating the treaty. You're the angry black man. There's no place in this society for you.
That's right. That's right, Baba.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so it's just an interesting conundrum.
No, absolutely. And what I wanted to say is that it's just, it seems like they don't have an understanding. And see, that's why I don't have debates, Baba, with people who don't study history. I don't, because when you don't study history, when you don't know your history, you cannot properly assess what's happening now, right? You can't properly diagnose the problems that we have now, because you don't know what took place to create the problems. So how can you offer viable solutions to what's happening now if you haven't studied the root cause of these problems? So for example, Baba, when you go to the doctor's office, this is what I tell my students, right? When you go to the doctor's office, they want to know your family history as it pertains to health, in order for them to diagnose you, right? And what's going on with you right now. We want to know your history. And so it seems like these sisters, and not to attack them, but it seems like they're just very ignorant of our history in America, what has transpired between us and the government, us and white folks. It seems like they don't have a clue. So the only thing is, and because of their ignorance, who they blame? I'm going to blame the black man, right? I'm going to blame him because I don't understand what the government did. I mean, shout out to, we're reading a book right now called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. Get The Color of Money by Mersha Baradaran. These books give you a great idea of what was going on, the policies and laws and practices that were created and implemented to make black people, to subdue us, first of all, to subdue us and to create black ghettos, black poverty, right? To put us in that position at the bottom of the black man, at the bottom of the dominance hierarchy. I'm sitting right here thinking about the book, The Birth of a Nation by Dr. Jacqueline Badalore. She talked about how this system worked literally to effeminize black men. They set up a white patriarchal system. And so she talks about that in the book. And so anyway, Baba, I just, those are the things that were going through my mind when I heard these sisters.
Sister, I think Cynthia G or whatever, she did say one thing that was very interesting to me when she said, y'all asked for assimilation and it didn't work. Now you want to cry. Well, it's some truth in that statement, because black leadership did fail. We did make a bad decision when our mainstream black bourgeoisie convinced the masses that we wanted to integrate. Convinced the masses that assimilating into American society was going to work. She's right. It didn't work. It wasn't for us. Integration was a failure. She's 100% right about that. And did black people fight for it? There were black people that fought for it. And got white backing to fight for it and make that message the prevailing message out there. Now, here we are, the so-called integration generation, and we've taken on we've taken on white Eurocentric principles. I got to get mine. You got to get yours.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
We become cultural creations. We become cultural
we
creations
become
of white
cultural
people.
creations.
Absolutely.
She's absolutely correct about that part of it. But that's also a part of the war. And I believe that was strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We walked into a trap, a cultural
Absolutely.
trap, and we still in it.
And we still in it, Baba. And we still in it. But Dr. Umar Johnson was giving them that work. He was giving them that work.
Oh yeah. Oh, he handled his business. Yeah. He's setting them up. He went to the Kerner Commission. He's just laying the foundation. He's setting them up, letting them know.
Absolutely.
Look, they even have admitted that systemically, this was a plan, and they still planning. And we're foolish to think that I'll be interested to find out and to finally learn, when was that historical moment where we were no longer impacted by slavery, Jim Crow, racism? When were those babies born that were born with every opportunity? And
it hasn't happened, Baba. It hasn't happened.
Know when that happened.
No, it hasn't happened.
Put a date on it.
No, it hasn't happened, Baba.
All right.
It hasn't happened.
Back to Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack. I am Tammy Mack, and the business of being black today are black men. Is there a war being waged against black men? First of all, I want to see where you all stand just by a yes or no. Dr. Umar, is there? Yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Hope, is there?
No.
Duan?
Absolutely, yes.
Cynthia G, where are you on this?
The only war is the war that black men are waging against the black community.
So is that a yes or no?
Yes, there is.
Duan, if there is a war waging against black men, do black men have allies?
No. The only allies we have is our other, I would say we don't have any outside allies as far as any other races, no. The only allies we have are black women who are on code with black men.
Because I was about to be real mad. I was about to go ham.
No. Because it's a lot of black women who are on code. I know I'm married to one. I've been with the same woman for 20 years. So I can preach, I can walk what I preach when it comes down to this. We do have allies, and the allies, the ally is the black man, woman, and child. With this whole fight between black men and black women, it's like the women forgot about the kids. It's like it's this whole war going on, and it's like the kids be damn. You have people like Dr.
You jumped on me there, Duan. You jumped on me. I don't even know how we got to the kids.
No, because we're all one. Black man, woman, and child.
Are you talking about the kids that black men abandon and publicly talk about how they don't want those children?
I can't speak for your life, but all those, my father's always been there for me. My wife's father's always been there for her. I'm there for my wife. My grandparents were there. I have married lineage. I can go back 400 years of marriages. So I don't know.
Be that as it may, it's very well documented.
I was talking. When it comes down to it, there are some men that leave. And when we're going to talk about the men that leave, let's talk about a lot of men that leave because of how they were pushed out by people who were going around trying to get government benefits. Let's talk about that. If he's not there, let's talk about all these single family households that are there because somebody wanted a baby so they can get a check one day and didn't give a damn about who she had that baby with. 80% of the women having the sex with the same 20% of men. If you keep in that same loophole, you got to look in the mirror.
Well, period. I don't know, Duan. I mean, your points are well taken. I'm just confused on how we go from a war against black men to women having babies by different men. It's not adding up here. Dr. Umar, help me make the math.
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, we have to make sure that we conduct a systems analysis and an institutional assessment. Communities are made up of institutions or the lack thereof. Communities are governed by systems or the lack thereof. Let us be very clear about something. This fratricide, this black on black crime that so many of our brothers are engaging in, let us remember, Irish did the same thing. Italians did the same thing. European Jews did the same thing. And in the 1930s and 1940s, the United States government decided to upgrade them to white status, and in so doing, gave the Italians control of the fire departments in the black community, gave the Irish control of the police departments in the black community, and gave the European Jewish immigrants control of the civil service municipal jobs that they still control in many city centers today. The point that I'm making, Tammy, is that America gave Southern European immigrants an economic stimulus package. Before they gave that economic stimulus package to Jews, Irish, and Italians, they were doing the exact same thing Black men are doing today, selling drugs, breaking the law, running in gangs, killing one another. But the government intervened and aided them. The reason Black male pathology is still going on 30, 40, 50 years later is there has been no resolution, there have been no solutions, and there have been no governmental intervention. With that being said, I'm not waiting on the government to solve the problems of Black men. We as Black men have to unite, come together, organize, and solve our own problems. Just because we can admit that the government introduced pathology into the Black community, we can still take full responsibility for ending it ourselves.
Hope, I see you nodding.
Yes, I feel like when you can name all of these things so eloquently and so beautifully, and yet y'all still fail at being able to do these things after years and years and years and years and years of trying, where do we find a new solution? Because if you can't talk to each other, if the old men are scared of these new boys because they're a lot wilder than y'all were, because they're a lot more buck than y'all were, what ends up happening is I see that a lot of y'all see these young boys, and instead of addressing them, y'all are afraid of them. And so you walk away and say, well, that's their generation's problem. And it can't just be that generation's problem. Like Sin has been continuously saying, if I have to just answer the question with a yes or no, my answer is no, because the war that we're fighting for Black men is the one that Black men are fighting within themselves. Is it about adjacency to whiteness? Is it about being able to assimilate to that white hand? Or is it really about the freedom of Black men and the Black family and the Black community?
I like that question a lot, Hope. I want to hang on to that question. Dewan, if there is a war against Black men, what exactly is the war?
The war is to disenfranchise Black men economically, because when you destabilize us economically, everything else is going to fall. We can take this back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which Maslow didn't come up with, but that's who gets credit for it. When you take away food, clothing, and shelter, everything on top is going to crumble. That's just human science. And what I'm hearing right now are people that are saying, ignore the science, ignore what's been proven for thousands of years, and let's just focus on these Black men. I don't care that everyone else has done it when they were in the same economic situation. I don't care the fact that Black men don't do this when they're sort of stable. Let's ignore all of that stuff and let's just go back to what Black men need to be doing. When you take away the bottom need of the pyramid, everything else is going to crumble. And with that being done, it's still only a few of us crumbling. It's a whole lot of us winning too.
I agree with that. I want to go ahead, Hope.
I was going to say, but it's at the expense of the Black families that y'all claim to care so much about. I think that what we fail to realize is that when the Black men who do have that platform that are not doing those things get on, the last thing that they're thinking about is the Black adjacency to their family. They want to assimilate to whatever whiteness, whatever white male privilege they can get. And that's a large part of the problem. We see this happen when we look at social media, and we're seeing Black men publicly proclaim the idea of loving on everything but a Black woman, wanting to have children because their eyes and their hair are going to be looser and more exotic looking. You do not see that as much in the influx of Black women as you do in Black men. So when y'all do get on, then it should be the responsibility of y'all, if y'all really care about this upholding of the Black family, to then come back to the Black communities that you come from and create those Black families and show people.
Dr. Umar, you welcomed us to the show by saying Black power. Okay. Is there some truth to the assimilation that Black men want or perceive to want when it comes to this war being waged against you?
Well, there's definitely some truth to it, but I think that truth is also evident in Black women. Black men, many of them may choose to want a white woman, but many Black women choose to look like white women. So we have to look at ourselves, and we have to recognize that the pathology is not more of one gender than the other. That's the issue I have with conversations that seek to see who is more at fault, the Black man or the Black woman. It's not about who's more at fault. We rise together or we will perish together. The Black man cannot survive without his woman, and the Black woman cannot survive without her man. And the issue that I take with my two sisters' narrative is I hear a lot of criticism. I hear a lot of condemnation, but I don't hear any empowerment. I don't hear any solutions coming from either one of them. It appears as if that there is a hatred towards Black men by those sisters. Even when they said, why are we going back to 1960? Let's stay in 2022. That is so immature and irresponsible of a statement. As a psychologist, when a client comes into my office, the first thing I perform is a history on their depression, a history on their suicide, a history on their anxiety. When you go see the medical doctor, he performs a history. When you go buy a home, they perform a history. When you go purchase an automobile, they perform a history on that automobile. But when we talk about the problems that affect Black males, we're supposed to look at it in a vacuum. We're not supposed to put it in a historical context. And with that being said, the language and the narrative that's coming out of the mouth of these two beautiful Black women is one that I think the white power structure would endorse, because it totally absolves them of any responsibility for the hell Black men catch in this country.
Cynthia G, you did say, why are we going all the way back to 1960? There is some truth to history when it comes to evaluating anything or anyone. So what do you say to that? Hold that thought, because I only got about 30 seconds here, so I don't want you to get into it, because I know you're going to get into it good, sis, and then have to come right back out of it. You understand? So just make sure you understand the question at hand, which is about a person's history, in this particular case, Black men's history in America, and why it doesn't matter when it comes to the war being waged against them. We'll talk about that and more when we return on The Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack on Fox Soul. Oh, we'll be back.
Baba, so tell me, let's go. What would you think, Baba? What was you thinking? Because I saw you shaking your head. I'm up there going like this.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
I give Umar his props. You know, it got to be hard sitting there, you know, around that kind of ignorance. You know, when I'm in the chat, they're telling me that one of the sisters ain't a sister. You know what I'm saying?
I saw.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing, because you hear nothing but complaining, tropes, no historical facts, nothing, no facts coming out their mouth. Like they Fox Soul handpicked them two. They cherry picked them just to come on and spread propaganda.
Absolutely.
Just to come on and add to that energy of hatred towards Black men, hatred and disrespect towards Black men that this society promotes, you know what I'm saying, on a daily basis anyway. You know, no historical basis. They know that because white supremacy is the default, you can just trigger Black frustration. You could trigger Black shame. And that's all that is, you know. So I give props to Umar for coming in and like, you know, what do you mean? Don't talk about history. Like you earlier. Right. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And it makes you have to face, it makes a lot of us have to face the fact that, you know what? I'm just brainwashed. I'm brainwashed not to even think logically when it comes to my own people. And that's what's on display. They think that there are people who think that though the women are being those people on the top of the panel are being intelligent.
Yeah, and that's sad, Baba.
Yes,
that's sad. That's sad.
Yes.
Yeah,
they're
making great points.
Going on.
None.
What you gonna say about when why y'all leaving y'all families? Black men don't get it. We don't have a meeting every week talking about make sure you leave your families.
No.
There's no meeting going on. We're not coming together, huddling up saying, yeah, this is what you do. No, get off of YouTube, get off of TikTok and Facebook, and really go into the Black community and meet the people there and come back and be honest and tell me what you see.
That's right. That's right. And Baba, what I loved is when Dr. Umar Johnson said it's pathology on both sides. You want to blame the Black man, blame the Black man. He said it's pathology that exists amongst Black women. Right? He said, all I hear is a bunch of blaming and finger pointing. It's pathology on both sides, Baba. Right. You know, so Umar, like, what we talking about? So he said, you keep pointing this and it's your fault. So, and that's another thing. So some brothers in my chat room, and I'm not talking about tonight, but sometimes when I'm talking about, you know, issues that women have with men or vice versa, you always have the people who come in and, well, it's more of them. It's more. No, it's on both sides. It's on both sides. Yes. And the goal should always be solutions. What solution are you bringing to the table? We know what the problems are, right? What are your solutions at this point? And so I love how Umar was just like, look, it's pathology that exists, you know, in Black women. I mean, I can go in, I'm not going to get into Cynthia G, like the way she wear her hair, how she, I mean, you know, like that's a pathology in itself, Baba. But you know, but you get what I'm saying? But you see what I'm saying, Baba? I'm not going to go there, you know, because I know that's either a wig, weave, or tracks. I'm not going to, this is all natural. I've been growing this since I was 16 years old. So, but Baba, I'm not going to go there. So we can say that there's a pathology on both sides. And Umar Johnson was saying, well, you talk about the brothers who want white women, but then we could talk about, you know, black women who look like white women, right? And I think he was kind of, it was a little dig, but, you know, he ain't really hit her.
It was more to point out the pathology.
The pathology, absolutely.
Like he's saying we both have it. Yeah, this is a sickness that's pervasive throughout our community. You know, and that feeling of black inferiority, that being ashamed of how we look, you know, how we look, and the whole stigma of being dark skinned and want to have someone light skinned or somebody white. You know, I've known brothers with white women, and a lot of times I see them and they treat them like they're trying to get revenge on the slave master. Like you see the pathology inside the relationship, you know.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you see it. You can see the pathology inside the relationship. So yes, that pathology is there, but let's not sit here and pretend like you don't have black men who are successful and at the same time great fathers, at the same time doing what they can for the community, for their family. That exists.
Absolutely.
You know? That exists. Yeah, and so it's an interesting conversation. You know, it's an interesting conversation. It's an old conversation.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah. It is old.
And
another thing that Umar pointed out, he said, Dr. Umar said, you know, let's not act like the Irish at one point weren't doing the same thing, the Italians. He said, but what's the difference between them? He said they gave them a stimulus package. Right. So remember, once they were considered white, right? Once they were accepted as white, what happened? They began to reap the benefits of so-called white people. Right. So they were able to qualify for the FHA, get loans, move into the suburbs and move into decent housing and began to create generational wealth. But prior to that, when they weren't considered white, when they were considered non-white, they were acting just like, you know, they were doing the same thing that black folks were doing.
Poverty. Yeah, a byproduct of poverty is violence. Okay, and then that violence is going to happen with proximity. You know, so the Irish wasn't killing Irish because they was Irish. They was on the same street. Okay, black people are killing black people in mostly fighting poverty. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that we have to understand is we got a stimulus package too. It was called crack cocaine.
Come on, Baba.
We got a stimulus pack. Our stimulus package came from Ronald Reagan in the boys. And they decided to let crack flow in our community. And a lot of people got rich. But what it did, though, it doubled down on that wolf mentality. It doubled down and said, ooh, I know y'all out there and y'all figuring out a way to be positive in your poverty. Let me throw a bone out here in the middle of this poverty. Let me throw something self-destructive. Are you going to sell a dope? Are you going to eat or get eaten? What you going to do?
What you going to do?
We're going to take away the jobs because if you notice, a recession hit right before crack hit.
Facts.
Yeah,
Facts.
We're going to take away the jobs, throw this bone out here and see who's going to eat, who's going to get eaten, like a lab experiment. We're still recovering from that. And that's the only business boost the black community has received from the United States government.
Facts, Baba.
Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack. I am Tammy Mack, and the business of being black today is black men. Is there a war being waged against them? We left off with Dr. Umar talking about how history matters when it comes to the contextual matters of black men having wars waged against them, a war waged against them. So, Cynthia G, what do you say to historical context?
I say we should go to the historical context, because what I have not heard from Dr. Umar Johnson, or I think his name is Dewan, is what I have not heard as they're mentioning all of the things that was done to them. I haven't heard what you did in response to it. So I would like to know, what did you do in response in history other than go to the Supreme Court and petition to have access to the men's women that you're complaining and accusing of disenfranchising you? See, because in the 1960s, what black men were really doing, and it's been documented, many civil rights leaders have admitted to it, what black men were doing is chasing the white man's woman, trying to so-called stick it to him by way of going to their women. What you should have been doing is trying to get liberation for yourself. What you should have been trying to do is get that foot off your neck. But see, the foot is not on your neck. And the only time you recognize it being on your neck is when you want to get away with doing something that you think white men are getting away with doing. Because let's just be real. Whenever we hear about this war against black men, it's usually being brought up when there's a black man like R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, we see Trey Songz going through it, Ari Spears, when they engage in some degeneracy, and then they're getting a consequence for it. And black men think that because they perceive white men to be getting away with crimes, they want to be able to get away with crimes as well. The reality is, Dr. Umar can sit up here and list all the different ways that the system is disenfranchising black men and block black men in a victim boat. But the reality is, what he cannot tell you is what black men did in response to it, because they did nothing. They laid down and they nested under the skirt of their non-black preferences, and only to complain that whenever they commit a crime, they're not getting off like they did.
So let's find out. Dr. Umar, what have black men done?
Well, number one, again, I think that it is such a shame coming from a psychological perspective that we seek to heal our wounds as a people by relying on unprofessional testimony by individuals who have a vendetta against the opposite gender in their community. When you hear Sister Cynthia speak, you can hear a hurt and a pain and a hatred towards black men. We cannot find an effective solution to black male-female relationship issues or the oppression of black men or black women when the people at the table having the conversation have negative emotional and pathological interests in the conversation that are not.
Umar, the question wasn't about my emotional state. The question was, what did black men do in response to their disenfranchisement? Yeah, because you're trying to pathologize my emotional state, not knowing that I'm a psychologist too. But what you're not doing is telling us what black men did.
I believe he'll get there, Dr. Umar.
May I finish?
Dr. Umar.
And I'll end it quickly, Sister Tammy. According to Mrs. Cynthia G, Dr. King was assassinated because he was doing nothing. Malcolm X was assassinated because he was doing nothing. Medgar Evers was assassinated because he was doing nothing. Fred Hampton was assassinated because he was doing nothing. That narrative that black men have done nothing to fight back against systemic oppression, not only against ourselves, but against our women, our children, our elders, and our community is absolutely ridiculous. The cemetery is filled with black men, names we know and names we don't know, who gave their life for the freedom, liberation, and emancipation of African people. How can you disrespect the history of so many black men, past and present, who continue to fight? I'm sitting in a school right now that we built with all black money, 4 buildings that we're going to educate black men in. It's not easy to solve our problems because there's always black people in your very same community who's fighting against what you're trying to do to help it. But in addition to that, the white power structure is always waving its wand of oppression to try to sabotage anything we do. I think that the analysis of our women is too overly simplistic, and in being such, it is dishonest.
They've done so much. You've only listed names and not accomplishments, though.
I can list some accomplishments. Okay, when it comes down to it, what have black men done since the 60s? We've turned around and we're still inventing things. We're still opening up businesses. Here in LA, you got black businesses all around town. It's just that when we open these businesses up, you have a city that these black businesses suddenly catch on fire. You have issues when it comes down to what's going on right now with one of my cousins and these abatement laws, who's built plenty of properties here in LA, managing it. But because there was some gang activity down the street, a nuisance abatement is about to get all of his properties taken. So when black men do build things, and we build things on individual basis, you're not going to see an NBC special about what the great black man built. When Irv Gotti, Suge Knight, and J. Prince tried to put together a distribution, they all got charges the next week. So it's not like we don't build things. When we do build things, something always ends up seeming to happening. And in spite of that, you've seen the most black business male ownership that's gone up in the last 60 years since the coronavirus. We still doing it. I personally got 3 businesses, so I don't know what you're talking about. I employ young black men. I've helped thousands of black children here in South Central LA. So all this black men ain't doing nothing. Where are you kicking it at?
So how are you? So how are black men creating all these businesses and still costing the government $50 billion a year?
Hold that thought. I want to get hope in here real quick, Dr. Umar. I want to get hope in here because Dr. Umar listed a plethora of black men that we know, and I'm assuming he listed the ones that we know so that we can identify and all agree that these black men have done something in terms of the fight for equality in America. How do you feel about those men that he listed, Hope? Have they done anything for the Black community or not?
Most definitely, I would be ignorant to say that they haven't, right? But I think that what we're failing to realize is that when we have this conversation about what Black men have done, the consequences are usually because of white supremacy and the gaze of white folks on us are that the Black men are then taken away and the Black women have to then sustain those things. To say that Black women are unappreciative of that, it would be, I think that is the dishonesty, right? The way that Black women show up for the Black community and the Black families, regardless of how we feel about the Black men that we might be interacting with or the Black men that are doing bad things, while still staying here to cultivate the Black men who are, is, I mean, to overlook that to me is just dishonest. The idea that a lot of you all were raised by grandma and them and auntie them and all of these amazing Black women that are in community and share space with you and share space with your children, that's being looked over. But also this isn't, Dr. Umar, you're right. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that you said, but you're absolutely right. It's not about the idea of who's doing it better or the pissing match of the oppression Olympics amongst Black people, but it's really about working together. The problem is what I find in working together is that the Black man wants to lead, whether he's acquired the gumption and the knowledge to be able to do so appropriately and effectively or not. The thing about it is when you're working together, we are a team. You get to lead this portion because you're better at it. I get to lead that portion because I'm better at it. And then we come to a common ground for both of us to succeed. But a lot of the times when we're talking about these succession plans and we're making all of these advocacy movements in order to progress the Black family, the Black man says, listen to me or fail. Right? As if Black women have nothing to contribute to that. And I think that that's where the problem is. That's where the discourse needs to happen is how do we work together so that Black men understand that we are meant to work side by side and not with me following you with my head down and saying, yes, it's our master. Because that is me being subservient to you in a way that I might not want to do, especially considering if you do not have the credentials, the know-how, the wherewithal, or the lived experiences to lead me in a way that I might be better suited to do in this point of our journey. And
Dr.
Black
Umar.
Well, first of all, I do not endorse any kind of a second-class citizenship role for Black women. I believe Black women have as much to offer as do Black men. So I'm not sure who the Queen is referring to because I am not a misogynist and I do not support that type of narrative that said the Black woman's position is only to have children and to prepare food. But at the same time, I think Black women have to look at themselves because although white supremacy has been the greatest enemy of the progress of Black men, you would also have to argue that Black women have probably been the greatest accomplice to supporting the white power structure in their destruction of Black males, i.e. the conversation we're having right now, where two intelligent Black women have yet to indict white supremacy for the role that they play in the destabilization of the lives of Black men.
So when we come back, we'll find out if the two beautiful sisters who are on the panel will indict white supremacy when we return on The Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack on Fox Soul. Welcome.
Woo! Baba. Baba. They said they don't think that Black men have done anything. And in my mind, they said since the 60s, I went all the way back in my mind post-emancipation. And I was thinking about all of the different communities that Black men established, that they built. I mean, in Texas alone, Baba, was over 550. They call them freedom colonies. Shout out to a sister, a PhD sister. She's doing the work on that. She's going to be on my panel next spring because she's in the process of, she left one university. She's going to the East Coast. She actually just migrated to the East Coast, but she's doing the work and she uncovered 552 freedom colonies that were established in Texas alone post-emancipation. So what do you mean Black men have not done anything? I mean, we can look at Tulsa. We can look at Durham, North Carolina. We can look at Wilmington, North Carolina. We can look at Rosewood. We can look at Black men they built their communities, thriving communities. So you had Black men who did that. They acquired land. They built their structures.
Look at the community that you're raising money for right now.
Come on, Baba. Right, like
you said, Lincoln Heights.
Come on, Lincoln Heights, right here, 1904. Black men went up there and they built their communities. They actually built the homes there, the structures there with their bare hands. And you're saying that Black men never did anything?
In the midst of amazing hostility.
Come on.
In the midst of amazing hostility.
Come on.
A government that was never on your side.
Come on,
never
Baba.
on your side. In the mid, you had Black youth in the 1960s and 70s fighting for liberation against the most powerful government in the world that declared them to be the biggest threat against the national security of the United States. Talking about Black youth, the Black Panthers, those were children.
They were young. Yep, they were young. They were young, Baba.
Nothing. When have we not fought?
It's never been a time that Black men didn't fight and that Black women didn't fight.
You mean it wasn't Black men out here teaching, fighting against the crack era? You mean it wasn't no brothers in the community saying leave the dope alone? Wasn't no brothers in the community trying to run cats out of these dope houses? I'm insulted.
Yeah, I was insulted too, Baba.
I spent my whole adult life walking amongst gang members, so-called gang members, and in trap houses, and I spent my young life walking without a gun, convincing brothers to do better, offering brothers another chance, and helping to organize and build programs and that sort of thing. And she gonna say, "What have y'all done?"
Right. That was ignorance, Baba. That was ignorance. That's ignorance, or that's being an agent. It's one or the other. Either I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying, look, I'm like, come on, you can't be that ignorant to see
because
that, to say that Black people never did anything
like that. She got a fake voice on and everything. She ain't that. I don't want to down. That ain't even how you talk for real. You need to sit your ass down somewhere. That ain't even how you talk for real. That's your character. She's clearly in character. And then Hope on the other side talking about what we need to do to get you. You ain't even the right side of the we.
Come on.
Talking about us being a team. We getting red flags on the side of the team you on. You know, all of us ain't down with that science that say you can pick. And then when you pick one, everybody got to say that's what you are. Everybody ain't sure about that.
Facts, Baba. Facts.
But you can hear the anti-Black maleness in the panel.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can hear it. There's nothing intelligent going on there, at all, and family out there, look, don't be blinded by that. Don't be blind. Try not to be blinded by your own personal frustration to the point where you don't see what's in front of you.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And please get the book, The Color of Money. Please get the book, The Color of Money. In that book, she talked, Baba, about how so many Black men established Black banks, and they were financing, houses and giving people money, loans for land and homes and businesses. These are Black men. It was one Black man. He actually got locked up. He had a bank and he ran into some financial issue. And at that time, he was paying money to be a part of this banking alliance. So if something happened with your bank, then they bailed you out. And so when his turn came, something happened with his bank. He went to this alliance or this community of bankers. And, of course, they didn't help the brother out, but our brothers were establishing banks. I mean, Baba, financing homes, financing businesses, financing, land. I mean, come on, Baba. I mean,
And Dr. Mott, we'd still do that if it was built into education. The education system's not our ally.
Not at all.
The mainstream culture is not our ally. The prison justice system's not our ally. As I was working with young Black men growing up, my biggest opponents was the public school, the criminal justice system. Those are my biggest opponents. As soon as you get a young Black male to validate himself, and then other people in the Black community, as soon as you get a young Black male to validate himself and want to do something systemically, is so much working against them. Much working against them. Nothing being reinforced anywhere that'll help keep that young brother strong. Come on, man. Y'all can't tell me nothing about systemic, who our allies are.
Right.
That's
a fact. That's a fact. There we go, Baba. We almost through, family.
Back to Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack. I am Tammy Mack, and the business of being Black today is Black men. Has there been a war waged against our brothers? Well, please welcome author and activist Hope Chisel, Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Dr. Umar Johnson, radio personality and family advocate, Dewan Brown, influencer and YouTuber, Cynthia G. Well, thank you all for this conversation. Do Black men in America face more obstacles than Black men in other countries? We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to know, is white supremacy responsible for any of the Black man's plight at all? Hope?
Most definitely. Like, let's not play coy here. We understand the role that white supremacy has played. But I think that over time, as we learn the tricks of white supremacy, right, we learn to do better to defeat it. And I find that, especially as Black men, a lot of the time when we're talking about this war on Black men, we fail to realize that Black women are underneath the same scrutinies. Maybe not in the same way and maybe not for the same reasons, but y'all are not going through this alone. And so when you talk about the ways in which Black women have learned to take, what we're given and turn it into glitter and throw it up and make Black girl magic, we wonder why those things are not happening for Black men in the same way. And it's largely because I think that complacency happens. A lot of Black men, not all, are complacent with the idea of being saved by everyone other than themselves. They're okay with the idea of being saved by Black women, white women, women of all other races. They're okay with the idea of being saved by white men who give them the opportunity to come and be a part of this thing that's better than what they are. But what they're not doing is being complacent in the idea of finding their own solutions to digging their way out of the hole. And having one or two people that are speaking on it with the idea of inclusion or exclusion of certain people within the Black community is also a problem. We cannot build as a Black community if we want to throw out this group of people or throw out that group of people or tell these people that their opinions are invalid, even though they're Black, because they're mixed race or because they're queer or because of all these other, incidences. And I think that those are the things that we have to focus on. The goalposts can't constantly be moved in this conversation whenever Black women start to make a point for the sake of Black men feeling like they need to be able to dismantle that in order to talk about how they've been hurt. We get that. We have
Cynthia
to.
G, white supremacy, does it exist in your world?
Absolutely.
And has it affected Black men?
Absolutely, it exists. And Black men have worked in tandem with white supremacy since they've become in contact with it. And this is why I say in the Black community, we have very disingenuous, very dishonest discussions, especially when it's regarding Black men, because we do have a Black male worshiping culture. So what we do within that culture, and Umar Johnson is showing it today, is absolve Black men from any accountability for what they've done. Number one, we wouldn't be in a system of white supremacy had it not been for Black men. So if you want to go all the way back to history, then let's go back to history when Black men were selling their own people into white supremacy. Let's go back into history when 16 years off the plantation, Black men were worried about a war being waged on them. They were worried about getting access to white women. That's what you were worried about. And it's interesting. There's a reason why I feel like Umar focused mostly on me and Hope's attitudes, and it's because he can't accurately answer the question. He mentioned names, not accomplishments. And the reason being is because
I think he mentioned those names specifically because the accomplishments of those people don't have to be explained.
Right, but those accomplishments are also accomplishments that I've heard Umar Johnson speak negatively about, specifically the civil rights movement and how damaging it was to Black people. But now he wants to sit here and say the very people who accomplished that were accomplishing something beneficial when, in his own opinion, that wasn't beneficial and did more harm to the community than good. So I think that because we're having such a dishonest discussion where Black men don't want to take accountability for what they've done, they want to be the victims of society, but then they want submission from the women. The bottom line is I'm not willing to deflect from the fact that, number one, Black men are the greatest non-white contributors to white supremacy. Let's just be real. White supremacy couldn't even exist without Black men's compliance. They're always uplifting whiteness, biracial children, and trying to assimilate. And that's why I went back to the notion of the only time Black men truly feel like there's a war against them is when they feel like they're being punished for something white men do. At the end of the day, y'all dropped the ball. You're blaming white supremacy on your failures. We already know there's oppression, but Black women are double oppressed. We have more barriers to face. You have male privilege in a patriarchal system and you can't even get it right.
Well, Dr. Umar, I think we all know your stance on interracial marriages.
Absolutely, but let me also
so please acknowledge what the rest of what Cynthia G has said.
Absolutely. I'm not sure where Sister Cynthia took history class, but if you know anything about the transatlantic slave trade was a European enterprise. It was
I'm talking about the sub-Saharan. I'm talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade. You should go look into it.
Excuse me.
You address me.
May I finish?
Go look into the sub-Saharan slave trade where Black men are trading their women and children for alcohol and tobacco.
I do not want a monologue. May I finish? Go ahead, Dr. Umar. I do not want a monologue. May I finish? I don't want a monologue. May I finish? 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 The transatlantic slave trade was a European enterprise. It was not an African enterprise. Although there were some chiefs who participated in it, by no means did they control the direction and extension of the transatlantic slave trade. So that's number one. Number two, Black men resisted enslavement, not only on the shores of Africa, but right here in America. We celebrate Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. There's literally hundreds of documented attempts by African men to liberate not only themselves, but their women and their children. So to act like we just sat there and we're complicit in our own oppression is absolutely ridiculous. The other point I want to clarify for your information, Cynthia G, you've never, ever heard me condemn the civil rights movement. The good Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a hero of mine. And despite me being a Pan-African nationalist, I take issue with other Black nationalists who do want to dismiss Dr. King's accomplishment. The civil rights movement was necessary because it removed a psychological scar that suggested of racial inferiority. So you've never heard me deride the civil rights movement. I support it, although I took certain issues with it. The bottom line is when Black women, Black girls, Black boys listen to this conversation we're having today, they're going to be confused because they hear two brothers speaking of a greater context to the problems that affect Black men. And you hear two intelligent, beautiful Black women who want to keep scapegoating Black men while ignoring the historical and contemporary systemic challenges that are constantly placed in our way. I'm going to say this and be quiet, Sister Tammy. I got to give you this. There was a recent piece of research, Tammy, that came out. And the research said a Black man with a master's degree, they did a study. They had white males who had come out of prison apply for jobs. They had Black men with master's degrees, Sister Tammy, apply for the jobs. And guess what? The white males with prison history and no education were called back more than 75% of the time than Black men with no prison history and a master's degree.
I'm aware of that. I am aware of that, of that survey. I am. Hope, I saw you give Dr. Umar the side eye.
It's only because you have 1,001 clips on the internet, but I know for a fact that one of the things that I was offended about in doing research or just seeing you on the internet is that you have definitely talked about your disdain for some of the practices of Dr. Martin Luther King. So to sit here and gaslight us as if most of us have not seen.
That's not true. Find the clip. Find the clip.
Well, Dr. Umar, you yourself said you yourself just seconds ago said you did find some things in the civil rights movement problematic.
But I supported the movement and I still support it. I visit
everyone supported it.
Every time I'm in Atlanta. Nobody, I have never been
as a Black man, as a Black person in America.
If we're going to have the conversation, let us be honest. Let's not misrepresent.
You're the only one not being honest, Umar. You're not being honest.
Find the clip. We don't have to argue about it. We don't have to argue about it.
You just admitted to it. We don't need it.
60 seconds left on the 60 seconds left on this segment. We won't be able to find the clip on this show. But Hope, finish. Hope.
Essentially, whether we find the clip or not, we know that those things have been said, and you know that you've said controversial things. Once again, we see you moving the goalposts when you find that.
Controversial according to who?
We find, once again, because my thing is you and Cynthia can have that dynamic, but I give you the space to speak. I've given everybody that space to speak, so please don't interrupt me. At the end of the day,
You interrupted me as well. Let's be fair.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
And so once again, here we go in a space where Black women are making a point. It's more important to the Black.
It's not about you being a woman. It was about you being incorrect. It has nothing to do with you being a woman. I respect you. You were incorrect. You were incorrect. I didn't have an issue with a woman. You were incorrect.
Well, let's all breathe in, breathe out, and I'll take a commercial break. All right? We'll take a commercial break and come right back to wrap this up on the business of being Black.
They hate Black men. That's the problem. They hate.
Woo, Baba, that segment was woo. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because she did try to turn this into a male female thing. But Baba, we got to take a commercial break. We got 214,000 people in the building. So we got to talk about the Uhuru Academy, the #1 Black independent online school for Black children, #1 in the nation. Got to get our children out of the public food system. Baba, go ahead and talk to them about the Uhuru Academy.
Hey, you know, this is what I love to do, y'all. Family, go visit uhuraacademy.com. We're talking our K through 12 online live private school experience that's like no other. We're talking our Operation Reconnect program, particularly the program we got for our 16 to 24-year-olds who stopped out of school that need to be reconnected to economic and education opportunities. We're talking an African-centered approach, an empowerment-based approach. We're not educating our children to be an African of the past. We're educating our children to propel us into the future. We're talking community-based solutions that we can bring to your city. We're talking community-based solutions we can bring to your school, proven. We're talking about experience where we galvanize Black parents, Black families, fathers, and mothers. You know what I'm saying? Extended family, your cousin, your aunties, all coming together as a village and rallying around the one thing that we have in common. That's the love of our children and our need for our children to succeed so that we can survive. That's what the Uhuru Academy is all about. And if you're ready to extract your children from that system and come over here with some Black folks, I'm not just going to say Black men because I founded it with my wife, my beautiful wife, and Koyo Ojuwo. When you want to come and be a part of a village full of Black men and Black women who are building and not asking for a handout, but asking for a hand up, who are building for our people, then come check out the Uhuru Academy. If you can't give your time, you can give your money, donate a $sign Uhuru Academy, right? And again, like I said, we're all about solutionizing education for Black people all over the world. Check us out.
Ashe. And look, Bob, I got to talk about the MELTREK program, Bob.
Let's
I got to talk
it.
about the MELTREK program. See, Cynthia G, and you know what? Cynthia G and that sister on the panel, whatever I don't know.
Right.
But whatever. They need to watch the MELTREK. They need to get the MELTREK program. They need to go on the MELTREK.
Yeah,
and the MELTREK
really
family, MEL is short for melanin, TREK means journey. We're taking you on a journey to learn about the history, culture, and achievements of melanated people. We have 2 films, MELTREK Exploring Ancient Africa. This was our first film that we produced. You can get it from edanimateproductions.com, or you can visit Amazon, all right, and you can get it over there and put it in your digital library. But the objective of MELTREK Episode 1, Exploring Ancient Africa, is to teach our children that our history does not begin with slavery. Our history begins with greatness. And what do you tell your students, Bob, every day? Greatness we come from, and so
we
greatness
come from greatness. We are greatness, and to greatness we shall return.
We shall return. Ashe. And so in MELTREK, you hear the children say, "Great comes from great." Right? Great comes from great. We come from greatness so we can be great. Children learn about all of the different civilizations that our people built, okay, prior to the era of enslavement. MELTREK Episode 2 talks about the pre-Columbian Americas. We talk about the melanated people who were here in America prior to the arrival of Christopher Columbus. So we talk about the mound builders, Hopewell, Mississippians, and the Adena cultures. We take them into Mesoamerica, where they learn about the Olmecs, Mayans, and Aztecs, and then we take them into South America, where they learn about the Incas. We are currently working on MELTREK Episode 3. It's going to be off the chain, family. We're going to dedicate 3 episodes to teaching children about the Ma'afa, which is a Swahili word coined by Nana Marimba Ani, which means the era of enslavement and colonization of African people. And so MELTREK Episode 3 will be dropping in December around Kwanzaa time. That's what we're looking at. All right. Also, family, sign your children up for the Conscious Ingenuity program. Sign your children up for the Conscious Ingenuity program, where we utilize STEAM to build character, confidence, and capabilities. Children are exposed to coding, circuits, robotics, cybersecurity, songwriting, animation, and storyboarding. Okay. Our goal is to build character, build confidence, build capabilities. Okay. Wow. We cultivate certain skills. What are the skills? Let me go back up. There we go. Critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, creativity, perseverance, and communication. Ashe. Lastly, family. You can go to consciousingenuity.com to sign your children up. And then lastly, we have the Asafo training camp. All right. This is a camp for middle school boys between the ages of 12 to 14 that focuses on manhood. All right, let me pause this because I know there we go. It focuses on manhood training. All right, character education. Yes, so manhood training, and so they learn about critical thinking. They do physical fitness, urban safety, all right, self-defense, They play chess. They do all sorts of stuff. It's a wonderful program that I co-founded with Baba Imhotep of PLM. And so, family, visit asafocamp.com to get your son enrolled in this camp. All right, Baba. So, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts? Let me go back. What were your thoughts about that last segment? What was your thoughts?
You know, the Babel. You know,
yeah, it was.
I hear the same, like Dr. Umar says, that hurt. I think Cynthia G just got a character that she getting paid off of, and to repeat those tropes. You know, white folks done threw a little bone, a biscuit, and she's in full character. With the ignorance, the lack of history. Y'all, not knowing our story is dangerous, Dr. Maya.
Absolutely.
You know, not knowing our story and having a platform, that's dangerous. That's dangerous, and it's just ironic, especially when the other one was talking about not letting a black woman speak, not like she's being erased, right? Yet your whole argument requires the erasure of black men from history.
Come on, facts.
You know, and that's something that we're fighting every single day. Is our erasure from history, from the annals of history, as if we were born when we were enslaved and we died when they let us off the plantation. We ain't did nothing since, according to them. We just rolled up. We went to court 16 years after slavery and battled for the right to marry white women, and that's the last thing that we did. Yeah, so that kind of ignorance, man, you don't even dignify that with a response, and it really says more about Fox Soul and Fox Soul's agenda.
And then Bob, I'm like, no one could indict white supremacy. The only person that indicted it was Dr. Umar Johnson and the brother on the panel. So they were saying, you know, it's kind of like as if it doesn't exist. Like, you know, like, no, I can't blame. I'm gonna blame black men.
It's always it exists, but it exists, but that's not an excuse. That's not a reason for this. That's not a reason for that. You know, and wow, you know, something can be the reason for something. We're committed to fixing ourselves. We not out here asking them to fix us. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna lie about what's going on and lie about the situation. It's not that's not the same thing. If we sit up here and act like that there are no psychological effects from slavery and Jim Crow and crack in the crack era, if we sit up here and pretend, how can you treat a disease without acknowledging where it comes from?
You can't.
You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You know, and so everybody making these flop arguments, you know what I'm saying? Going on with that. Going on with that. And most of the time is somebody that's bitter, somebody that's hurt, somebody that's guilty because you sold out and you know you're a sellout and you need to your defense mechanism, your ego is kicking in. You know what I'm saying? But it's rarely somebody that's telling the truth, that's about studying and about really objectively coming up with solutions. So I'm not even interested in people who think that the solution's already here.
Absolutely.
So we don't even need to talk. If you don't think it's a problem, why we talking?
Right. Why are we talking? Why are we even why are we even having the discussion?
Yeah, why are we having a discussion? You
Facts,
know what I'm saying? So no, you cool. Public school, great that way it is, because four people out of 400 made it out, so there are no excuses. You know, man, you know, if I was a predator, you know, if I was a predator and I ate chickens, I'd let 2-3 chickens live and hang around me and everything, so the other chickens will think it's safe.
Come on, Baba.
You know, and then every time I kill a chicken, I convince everybody that chicken killed itself. I told him not to walk across that line. As long as he stayed over there, I wouldn't have ate him. But he didn't stay over there. You know, a lot of Africans was blamed in slavery. Well, he only getting whipped because he tried to run. Right.
Come on. Right, Baba.
You know, they only whipped him because if he hadn't been sassing Mousel wouldn't have did that to him. So then you end up getting raised not the sass master. You get so now it's a confusion. Am I being a man when I lay low and don't make waves, or am I being a man when I rebel? When I don't make waves, they gonna call me a sellout. When I rebel, they gonna say I'm not accountable and I blame the white man for all my problems.
Facts.
What we're like what Umar said. If a young black boys and black girls are watching this debate, they be confused right now. They be confused.
It's sad, Baba.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
sad. It's sad, Baba.
Yeah. So
All right,
that's my
here we
thoughts.
go. No, I appreciate that, Baba. I mean, my thoughts. I'm with you. Like I'm just, like I said, and I said this earlier, right before Umar even said it. I had identified quickly, Baba, that these females have totally absolved racism and white supremacy, as if racism had no impact on Black life.
Right.
As if this power structure had no impact on Black life. And then they said, well, is it a war? Absolutely, it's a war. So they say, well, what is the war? The war is about maintaining power. Yeah, that's what it is. Maintaining political power, economical power, and social power. So it's, is the war being waged because we want to keep the Black man at the bottom of the dominance hierarchy. Why? Because we want to maintain power. We want to control the wealth. We want to control the resources. We want to control. So it's about power. That's what this thing is about. And I was surprised that during this conversation that no one mentioned the whole objective is about maintaining power. So the Black man catches what he catches because of the desire for quote unquote white men or so-called white men to maintain their power. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Baba, let me go ahead and play this last segment. Here we go.
Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack. I am Tammy Mack, and the business of being Black today is there a war being waged against Black men? Dr. Umar is getting it a little bit because he says the ladies are lying on him. And I suggest that you run through and roll through every interview and clip that Dr. Umar has to find the clip, as he would say. One thing I agree with you on, Dr. Umar, is a lot of times when we have these conversations, we start comparing Black women to Black men, and we tear one down in order to make the other's point. And oftentimes when I have these debates on the business of being Black, I notice that is often the debate, to break the other person down rather than build them up. But I do want to do some comparative questioning right here. Do Black men face more obstacles than Black women? Dwan.
I don't want to put it in a more or less. We face different obstacles, but at the end of the day, this is what we can say is true. Black women have a safety net that Black men don't have. If a Black man loses his job, like earlier, what they're talking about earlier, Black men have no accountability. Well, if a Black man don't pay child support, he gets his license taken away, he gets his passport taken away, and he can't get a job. So there's accountability there. When it comes down to when a Black man messes up, he's going to go to prison far longer than anyone of any other race or any other sex. So we have the most extreme consequences. But when it comes to a safety net for when we mess up, when we're down in our life, there are no programs for Black men. You can't go through the government and say, hey, if Black men with children, here are this list of programs that only men can get. But it's a whole lot of stuff out there for women. So what's happening, what I'm seeing right here is a lot of lies being told, but lies of omission. Omitting these safety, the fact that women have these safety nets that Black men don't have, and also omitting the fact that in spite of all this, 3 out of 4 Black men still get married to Black women, and we still provide and we still do these things. So,
but
yes,
Dwan, what Cynthia would say is, how come you haven't created your own programs?
Well, I personally created my own program. I've written 2 books. You know what I mean?
But that's not a program.
No, I know. I also have a whole program on how to communicate to your children and how to communicate to families, because my thing is about solutions.
But you're talking about safety nets. So the question becomes, how come Black men haven't created safety nets?
Black men, the Nation of Islam created what they can create as far as safety nets goes. Black independent organizations create safety nets for each other all the time. I'm talking about governmental safety nets. We can't go to the United States and say, hey, we need something only for Black men, because it doesn't exist. There's a whole welfare program coming out in Atlanta that's only for Black women. Same thing in California. There's a whole universal basic income that only Black women can qualify for. Black men can't get.
But do you believe that that's because Black women came together and said we need a program?
No, the reason why that happens is because the white supremacist plays on this schism within Black society, and they give one side greater gifts than the other, and that can lead to infighting. And then people who don't analyze what's really going on, they're going to just see the result and not see the cause and say, what's wrong with Black people? That's the government's tricks going on like it's always done. Let's elevate one group over the other and watch these two rascals fight each other. That's what's going on.
Okay. I'm not sure that anything governmental is a gift, though, but hope.
I think that when we talk about it, a lot of those programs, especially the ones from back in the day, since we are going to do the history thing, were not just made for Black women, but Black women accessed them because Black women were the ones that were in the household that had to take care of whatever was left when the government did steal our Black men away, or when Black men did fall into the hands of white supremacy. But I also think that the question now is, if you don't see that those things are happening, if we're not seeing those things in influx, then what are the greater Black male population doing to enforce that these things happen? When women want things, especially when Black women want things, we get up, we say something, we talk about it, and we're going to talk about it till we're blue in the face and until we get those things done. A lot of the times what I find is that Black men think that they can ride off of those things, and then when things come to pass and they're not put into the game plan, then you're upset. Then it's like, oh, well, we thought we were going to, why? You did none of the work. You sat behind me and you watched me rally and you watched me do all of these things, and then you thought that you were going to benefit from it. And I'm sorry that I left you off, but honestly, when I was doing this work, it was hard to consider you, considering that I have to take care of you regardless in a lot of those spaces. But I also think that hit dogs will holler. If these things do not apply to you, then let's talk about how you help them to apply to the people that they do, and pull those brothers out of the struggle instead of trying to defend something that does not apply to you. If it don't apply, let it fly, and let's figure out how to pull everybody into that fold instead of defending a narrative that you don't even conform to. Why are you so upset?
When I always hear, like, when Dwan, when you were talking about the government subsidies that Black women have, it always makes me think about the movie Claudine with Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones, and him being the trash man and having to hide him in the closet when the people came. So I do believe that it definitely was a setup for a letdown in the Black community. Dr. Umar?
Yes, indeed. One of the problems with the conversation, not with you, Tammy, but the responses, they're so individualized. Nothing is being evaluated from a group perspective or a community perspective or a systems perspective or an institutional perspective. The bottom line is, anything Black men want to do to liberate ourselves or our community, we can't do it without our women. And anything our women want to do to liberate themselves or the community, they can't do it without the men. It is not a competition. It should be a collaboration. But once again, some of us in the conversation are so filled with hatred for the opposite gender that we can never get around to talking about solutions. And in speaking of clips, Sister Tammy, there is one clip you might want to ask Sister Cynthia about, because it was sent to me by about 30 people several months ago, maybe even weeks, where she suggested that women, Black women, should abort their Black male fetuses because after birth, they would not contribute to anything worthwhile in the Black community. Could you ask her to clarify her comments?
I would love to.
Women,
well,
Black
I would
women
love to too, but we don't
abort.
have time. So Dr. Umar, what I need you to do is tell us what you're working on so we can be a part of it.
All right, Baba. So that's basically the end of the discussion. Everybody's going to talk about like who they are and how to contact them.
Yeah.
And so that's basically the discussion. And Umar Johnson was being completely honest when he said that Cynthia G has been promoting this for a while, that Black women, encouraging Black women to abort Black boys. She's like, that's like their mantra, she's like, they're going to get swept into the dusty culture anyway. If you don't have a way of ensuring that they don't abort them, and so, that's what she says. And so I really wish that they did have enough time for her to clarify her comments, but I've listened to Cynthia G's commentary and that's what she says. She says, abort them, like, what good are they anyway? They're going to turn around and terrorize, grow up, get sucked into the dusty culture, terrorize the Black community anyway. So why have them? And so shout out to the 223 people watching right now. But Baba, what were your thoughts on this last segment?
Well, I mean, that whole abortum thing, that sounds like some shock jock stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's horrible. That's just disgusting. You know what I'm saying? It's just a disgusting suggestion. I'm glad Umar brought it out. It let people know exactly what type of person, was on the panel. That's horrible. Dr. Ma'at, I just think that the comparing and contrasting, right? It's ignorant.
It is.
Your problems are my problems.
Absolutely.
My problems are your problems.
Absolutely.
Your advantages are my advantages.
Absolutely.
My advantages are your advantages. Most black folk, most black women I know who got Section 8, there's a black man or brother somewhere that benefits from that. Right. I've seen black men and women work together to utilize that system to get a leg up while they're building a business and the whole 9 yards. And there's a whole bunch of brothers that did not get found that was in the projects and doing that thing. So I've seen families work their way up out of that, the whole 9 yards. You know, when a black man is harmed, a black woman is harmed. When a black man terrorizes a community, he's not just terrorizing other black men, he's terrorizing black mothers, black, you know what I'm saying? Black
absolutely.
sisters,
Absolutely.
Black, black aunties, the whole 9 yards. When a sister is laying down and just having babies to get on housing and all that kind of stuff, that's not just her problem. That's my problem. That's the other brother's problem in the community. The kids that's going to grow up, if these children don't get the right guidance, you know what I'm saying? They're going to be around my children. That might be an issue at the same time. So
absolutely.
So all of these problems are together. And I believe that the enemies of the black community looks at it as one plan, not two plans. Not two separate agendas, that's one right. agenda. Everyone in capitalism has a place, a designated place. Black people aren't the only group with a designated place, but this the group we're in. So that's what we need to deal with, you know, and that's what it is. And this divide and conquer kind of thing, you know, I mean, if you study the history, you see it because it's obvious, because this isn't a new game.
No.
It's the same game that was played on the plantation. Absolutely. Same game that was played to bring division in the civil rights movement. Same game was played to bring division in the Black Power movement. Same game was played when we was dealing with gangs and dealing with crack. This is the same divide and conquer game where somebody sneak in and say, well, you know, black woman, you have issues that are different from his. And I know he left you and boo, boo, boo. Let me play on your pain so I can corrupt your power and use your power to gain something over here, then leave you out in the cold. Same with black men. You can dunk, you can run and dunk. Here, I'll give you one of my white sluts. You can have one of them and come over.
Come on, Baba. Come on.
All that. We got plenty of whites. Y'all act like white men care about white women. But anyway, we come on over here and you can have one of these sluts and you'll accept you. And then when we're done with you, we're going to throw you away. But you're going to end up mad at her. She's going to end up mad at you because both of y'all scared of me.
Baba. Oh my gosh. Baba, that's a clip. You know you're going to be on Instagram tomorrow.
I was auditioning.
You're gonna be on Instagram tomorrow, Baba. Yeah, it's gonna be a clip of you float. Yeah. It's gonna be a clip of you floating.
It's so much easier for the oppressed to fight the oppressed than for them to come together and fight the oppressor.
Oh, that's a fact.
Yeah, I can fight you. Ain't no consequence. Me and you start beefing, like I'm gonna get likes and views. Ain't gonna be no real consequences. You don't have the power to pull my platform. You don't have that kind of power. Yeah. We don't go at the power. We don't speak the truth to power.
Come on, Baba.
I salute your channel and everything that you're doing, because we're unapologetically speaking truth to power. There may be a consequence that comes. Building independent black schools, you know, the whole 9 yards. But one thing y'all ain't gonna never say is that the two people you looking at on this video right now didn't stand up and do everything you could to bring about a solution. You're gonna have to ask yourself, was I a part of the solution, or did I sit back and watch?
Look. Was I a part of the problem? You know, that's where I was going. Well, are you a part of the solution, like you said, or a part of the problem?
I think it was Kwame Ture that said, if your people are oppressed, right, and you're not struggling to freedom from that oppression, then by your very active inactivity, you are an enemy to your people.
Facts. That's a fact. Thank you, Baba, for that jewel, that quote too. That was powerful, Baba. And thank you for your work. So that's why when she said black men aren't doing anything, you know, I'm sitting in front, you know, of a black African man who's doing a lot, who gave his life, you know, to the movement, to the struggle, to liberate the minds of Black people, to educate, edify Black babies, to motivate Black babies, love on Black babies, not even just inside of your family, Bible, but I'm talking about the whole community. Because you could have just homeschooled your children and kept it pushing, but you
Yes.
you teach your children. Then you and your wife, Mama and Koyo, started an entire institution. You opened it up to the community, Baba.
With no
you
funding.
gave that gift. Right. You gave that gift, Baba, to the community.
Yeah.
So when they talk about Black men ain't doing this, I'm looking at a Black
Yeah.
African, beautiful Black man who is solid, and doing great things for Black people. So that's why I said, like, when you said I'm insulted, that's why I said I'm actually insulted.
Yeah, I was.
I'm insulted.
Because I bled, literally. You know, they talking about blood, sweat, and tears. I bled literally. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so that's very insulting. I think about Baba Baruti, you know,
Come on.
and Mama Ya, you know, and opening their home to the community for decades, doing what they do. Ain't no government gonna give us funding for this. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
Ain't no, we have to do this, and we want to do it for ourselves. Thing is, if the government came, we turn it away. Because we know if you come,
we know it's
and
gonna.
say,
We know
it's going to be some oppressive strings attached to it. So we're being uber accountable. Not only are we fighting the systemic racism, we're fighting it while rejecting help from the racists and the non-racists.
Come on.
You
look, TK said, why Fox ain't called Baba? They might go call Baba. You would have blew it up. Can you imagine you imagine you and Dr. Umar on the panel talking to them
It's over. I'd start talking to Umar directly. Man, Umar. You hear that help? Nah. You hear what she said,
but you know what I would have enjoyed if they would have had, you know, maybe like a sister, you know, like a Cynthia G, and then like myself, so that you can see the contrast. Because now it's like it's sisters. You get what I'm saying? So what is the perception here? That Black women are against Black men. So I would have loved if they would have had, you know, a sister like a Cynthia G, a sister like myself. You get what I'm saying? On the same side, you know, or arguing the same points. And then Umar Johnson, and then another brother that's arguing the opposite of Umar. You get what I'm saying? Because like you said, when people roll that tape, what is the perception going to be?
You're right, Dr. Maya. And thinking of that, you know, let me flip my thinking. That panel did more damage to the image of Black women.
Come on. That's what I was thinking just now.
Because you're
that's
right.
Why I said, what's the perception going to be?
You're right, because the Black male perspective was giving statistics and all that, you know, brother was kind of even keeled and that sort of thing. But the sister's perspective, there was no balance at all. No balance at all, right? And you know, and so you're right. Black women really were not represented
not at all.
Panel. Because the one Black woman was a caricature of a Black woman that she clearly created in the bathroom to get internet fame, you know.
Facts.
Right? And the other one is dealing with some other stuff. You know, let's just say the other one hasn't been a Black woman her whole life. Let's just say that. Or been able to live as one her whole life. You know, so Black women that were not really represent a true Black woman, because the sister who hosted, she just stayed impartial.
Yeah, she did.
So Black women really were not represented on that panel at all.
No, not at all. It was a poor representation of Black women on that panel. And I'm totally disgusted at the things that came out of Cynthia G's mouth and the person. I'm just going to say the person Hope. You know, very disgusted by that. And, you know, very offended by that representation of Black women. I would have dusted them, Bob. I would have came with so many facts from the color of law, color of money. I would have took them all the way back. Then I would have took them back into slavery. You mean Black men didn't fight? Then I got to get into the Maroon history. You know, the Maroon communities. You know, that were established. The thousands. You know the thousands. And you saying the Black men never did anything? How dare you? How dare you? Then you blame Black men for slavery. You blame Black men for slavery.
Sure did.
As if Black men created
pivot by saying I was talking about the sub-Saharan
yeah.
slave trade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she said,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about
Yeah,
the
talking about
sub-Saharan.
with the
But
Muslims when the Arabs came down.
absolutely, and she still didn't give it any historical context.
She did, because she had
none. She didn't have any. Exactly. She never studied it. She just threw it out there. Never studied it. She didn't study the sub-Saharan, the trans-Saharan, right? Slave trade.
Yeah,
and she didn't.
trans-Saharan, yes.
Yeah, she did. So she didn't trans, because we said sub-Saharan. I just wanted to make that clear that we talking about the trans-Saharan, right? I think she said sub-Saharan. That's why we repeated what she said.
Right.
But the she said the sub-Saharan slave trade. No, sweetheart, it was the trans-Saharan slave trade, and you didn't even study it, so you don't even know what was happening. It wasn't no damn such thing as an African back then. You're the Africans, the black men were selling. It was no concept of that. Right. That the Africans stole each other and they own Africans, and it wasn't no concept. We know black people weren't a monolith, in Africa. You were a part of your ethnic group. I was a part of my ethnic group. There was a lot of tribalism.
We were not all friends.
Yeah, we weren't all friends. And so what did white folks come in and do? The Portuguese, the British, the Dutch, the Swedes, the Danish. They came in and they took advantage of that disunity of what they saw. They took advantage. And so anyway, and then again, like shout out to Baba Emotep, who on my last show, we did a show called where are our Black Wall Streets? And he like stopped the show because somebody came into the chat and started banging on African people. And he was like, wait a minute. I hope you all understand that every African person on that continent back then, during that time, wasn't selling their own people or selling people. They didn't participate. Everybody did not participate. He said the people who participated were a minority. They were a minority. Just like right here in the U.S., it's sellouts. Does that mean that all African American people are sellout because we have some sellouts in the African American community? No. So we can't say that all of them were slave traders. All of them were. We can't say that. It was a minority. Right? It was a minority.
You can go to court, Dr. Mott, and if I get accused of hurting someone, I can't point out that person has hurt someone before, so I get to go home. Right? So when people point out Africans sold Africans into slavery, why are you pointing that out? Who are you protecting? Who are you softening the blow for? Right. What are you justifying? Are you justifying the enslavement of African people by white people by pointing out that there were Africans that did the same thing? So if a woman, if a rapist is accused of rape, if he can find a woman that has raped a woman, can he say, well, women have raped women, so I need to be able to go home? You can't hold me accountable because I found a woman that raped a woman.
Come on, Baba.
So it doesn't make sense. And all you're doing is protecting mass. It's a trigger that says Jesus is not evil. And Jesus is synonymous with white people. Mm-hmm. So Jesus cannot be an enslaver. And when you attack white people, you're attacking God. When you're attacking anything white. But it's okay to attack something black. Let me show you why you deserve to be slaves, because you had black people who enslaved black people. So it's no big deal.
Come on, Baba.
Introduced the cultural norms. They normalized murder. The European culture, when they came out that northern cradle, they normalized behaviors that southern cradle people couldn't even fathom.
Come on, Baba.
Couldn't even fathom. They raised the bar on what slavery was. They raised the bar on what murder was, on what war was. There were African conflicts that were settled with sound, with drums and marching. Y'all sound strong today. Let's go and negotiate.
Come on, Baba.
So come on, y'all. That's why we have to study the story, and we have to understand the power of culture. We still act shocked. We don't. White folks kill white folks every day. I ain't never seen one commercial with white people saying we need
white on white. Yep. Nope. Or white on white crime. Nope.
We don't. And you know why? It's because everyone knows that this ain't our nature. That we are naturally peaceful people. It's almost a compliment for everyone to be shocked that we killing each other. How we're shocked and how we're disgusted by it. When we lose that, I'll have a problem. I'll have a real problem. When we stop being disgusted, when we harm each other, that's when I'll have a problem. I'm glad that we thrive to be the only non-violent people in the United States of America. Because if black people stop killing each other, we'll be the only race in America that doesn't do it. We'll be the first. I love people say, you don't see white folks out here. Shit, you ain't looking. Because everything we doing, they doing times 10.
Times 10.
Violence is an American pastime.
Absolutely.
Period. We're not being black when we shooting at each other. We're being good Americans.
That's a fact, Baba.
Period. And that's the culture we're gonna have to get away from if we're gonna fix our community.
Absolutely. Separate. I say separate a parish. You know, Umar Johnson and them, they talk about, you know, Pan-Africanism, a parish, separate a parish. We got to separate. We got to extricate ourselves from this culture because we're getting sucked in, Baba, and it's killing us. It's killing us.
And so we need to, ain't working, man. If we're gonna be here, we have to build our own safe spaces and protect our culture.
That's
be us, live us, protect our culture, own our institutions, own hip hop, own our institutions, own the things that we create.
That's right.
Yeah. And if it can't work here, then we're gonna have to migrate somewhere else.
That's right. It's over. It's over. Like you said, either do it here or it's time to go. So anyway, Baba, thank you so much for coming on and helping me analyze this discussion. Family, I won't be live tomorrow. Okay. Got some things going on this weekend, but I will be live on Sunday. Absolutely. I will be live on Sunday to discuss chapter 3 of The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. Family, join me back here 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday to discuss chapter 3 of The Color of Law. We've already discussed the preface, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Try to get caught up with those discussions and join me back here on Sunday. And even if you don't get caught up or you don't have the book, still tune in because you're going to learn something, family. So still tune in. So I'll be live 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a black-tastic weekend. Peace and black power.
Black power, y'all.